It's the Soul Fantasy Show, Soul Fan Show. Hey, it's the Soul Fantasy Show live for June 18th, 2021. Going over the top picks, plays, and studs for Draftkings Fanduel. Joel Embiid. I had him on the cover last time, and he scored 73 fantasy points. Paul George, he had 71. Without Kawhi Leonard, I'm pretty sure he's out. Let's go look. Let's look for him. Kawhi is out. He's out. So, I'm going to just say for 10-1, Paul George is the sole stud of the day. Now, you have other options. You have Trae Young. He had a 57. He's just a monster. He constantly scoring. He's constantly getting fantasy points nonstop. 1.38 fantasy points per minute against the Sixers. But expect the Sixer win. It's a must-win game for the 76ers. Joel Embiid's right on top, getting 1.66, almost two fantasy points per minute. Now, they're going to have to pace themselves because Joel Embiid got very tired at the end of the game, and they're going to have to pace themselves. So you're going to be playing people like Seth Curry. He had 52 giant fantasy points. People expect him to come back down to earth, but I don't. I think he's just going to put another monster up. Will he or will he not? Somebody on the Sixers is going to step up. Is it Dwight Howard? They think it is. Lou Williams had an exceptional game. 26 fantasy points. He was knocking down threes. He was banging shot after shot, getting a fantasy point per minute. He's only 3,200. He was getting when they foul Simmons, people like Lou Williams get on in there. All right, so we have Clint Capella. He's guarding Embiid, so he's doing a lot of defense and not a lot of offense. Not a lot of fantasying. He's 6,700. They expect him to score a little more this time because it's going to be a different game. Collins at 41. Collins did very well. He did very well. Don't expect the Hawks to have magical games every time. They're not going to have good games every time. It's just the way the NBA is. Expect a loss and expect them to come down to earth because they were really in a, they had to win that game because they were going home. They want to end it out, but they're not going to. It's going to go 7. It's going to go 7. We know it. We know it is. Mitchell is dealing with an ankle problem, leaving his status unclear. He'll probably play. He is 9,300. He had 53 fantasy points last time. So we have Rudy Gobert at 34. These are two swell options. Rudy Gobert and him. And Donovan Mitchell. So down here we have Ingles. He had 32, 32, 32, 32, 32, 32. All these 32s. He gets 30 burgers all day, getting a fantasy point per minute. Conardi gets 30s. He's getting 30. He's only 4,500. He just bangs threes. He's a good player. He landed on the Hawks. He makes that team solid. Now, Beverly is only 3,000. He is the sole sleeper of the day. Patrick Beverly. Expect him to get 15 and 25 fantasy points for 3,000. Shake Milton wasn't shaking and baking last game. Not like he was before. He only had 8 fantasy points. Tobias Harris, expect a monster game from him. There's no way he's going to get 15 fantasy points again. He gets 40s all the time. So he's expected to get about 40 fantasy points. That's why his price is still 7,700. He's only 60 on the DD. His 11 and 17 opponent rank. Okay. So we have Jordan Clarkson and Batum. So he's cold. Jordan Clarkson's been cold, so he's a little too expensive for 6,200. He should be about 5,800. He's priced way out of the range. Kawhi Leonard is out. How long is he out? We don't know. Leonard is dealing with a right knee injury and he will not play for the Clippers. What a shame. That could be bad for the Clippers. They might lose that game. And he's getting solid 30s right now. He's only projected at 22.6 fantasy points, but he's 4,900. You put him in there. Korkmaz is 3,900. He gets in the teens, so that's what he's gonna get. 14 to 19 fantasy points for 3,900. Zubiak has -2 ices. Bogdan has -1, but he's still at 40 fantasy points last game, so he's going to get 30 for 5,900. He's worth throwing in there. He's not as cold as you might think. 38 minutes for him. Bogdanovic. So Marcus Morris Sr., 36, 38, 12, 27. Royce O'Neal had 41 minutes for 5K. He's only getting 0.71 fantasy points because he has a pretty hard position. Absolutely tough matchup for him. But if he's getting 30 with those tough matchups and he's only 5K, he's worth throwing in. Now, Herter had 27 minutes. He's the one that's guarding Ben Simmons. And he's the one that's hacking Ben. They're hacking Ben up. So his game is hurting because he's playing D and fouling a lot and then sitting on top of being cold. Just as Bogdan is, they were both ice, even though they won. Bogdanovic and Kevin Herter were both ice cold. Expect Bogdan to turn around. He should have around 27, 32. He's projected at 32. He's 6,400. Herter might not have a good game. I would be wary. I'm putting Kevin Herter in. You might not want to roster Kevin Herter. There's Cousins, ice cold. Jackson, 34. Reggie Jackson, only 5,200. He is 4.6 times value, getting almost a fantasy point per minute. He should get around 25 fantasy points. Hopefully more. Hopefully you get 30 out of him. Rondo hasn't been looking too good. He's 3K. He's pretty low priced. George Hill hasn't been looking good either. Rondo and George Hill are pretty much fades. Terrence Mann, he had 23. So if you want to risk putting in a little guy like that, not a little guy, but a $3,200 player, I'd rather put him in than Rondo or George Hill. I'd rather play Terrence Mann. My favors, 3, 11, 6, -1, 17. That doesn't look too good for me. 6 minutes. Thibault at 23 minutes. So, he doesn't score a lot. He's a defensive guy. He was one of the defensive players of the year, the second team defense. He's on the second team, along with Ben Simmons, I think, is on the first team. And believe it or not, Joel Embiid, they're all defensive gurus, so to speak. So for 3,000, I would take a risk. He might get 8, if he gets 18 fantasy points for you. Somebody on that Sixers bench is going to have to score because they haven't been scoring. Luke Kennard, 8. No. Serge is out. Maxey hasn't been doing much. He's 3,100. Somebody on the Sixers bench is going to do well. Mike Conley is dealing with a hamstring and might not take the court again. I was hoping he would play. I've been waiting for him to play, but it looks like he's going to be out. Herter, Danny Green is out, so that puts some of the Sixers bench players. He's a starter, and he's out. But it's going to help the Sixers bench. So we got Solomon Hill down here. He was in the game, had 12 minutes, was playing, but didn't get any fantasy points in that whole 12 minutes. He's just a body on the court. All right. Tony Snell. You see these here? Nothing much. Now, Okongwu was going off. He had a great game. He had 16 fantasy points for 3,000. He was slamming. He was shooting. he was playing like his heart out. So he's playing hard. And he had 12 and 16. So for 3,000, you might want to take a shot at him. He might be somebody worth taking a shot at. So that's pretty much. There's guys down here you can take a look at. Chris Dunn, nothing. Mike Scott hasn't been in. Nothing. So these are guys that aren't really getting any playing time. So just look at them real quick. They're not getting. So these are guys. They're on there, but they're really risky. These guys here. I don't want to undermine them. They're professionals. But as you can see, they're big time risks. So let's go over the lineups real quick. Then we'll do Yahoo and Fanduel. This is the main 2-game slate. Still 2 games. The Draftkings. And here's the Fanduel 2-game slate. This is the singles. Alright, so here we have Joel, Bernardo, Korkmaz, Lou Williams, Herder, and Collins. They're going heavy with Joel. Joel. Same lineup. There we go. It's a little different. You don't have Trae Young in there. You can easily. If you wanted to go with Harris, I would probably try there. I'll try to throw these 2 guys in. I'll just get rid of him. And I'll get rid of Herder. You can do this right here. This is a good lineup. Tobias, Embiid, Young, Curry, Thibault, and Lou Williams. This is a nice one right there. Trae Young, Williams, Embiid, Leonardo, Korkmaz. They keep putting Korkmaz in. I'd probably think about staying away. You could put him in. Remember we were talking about him? Because then you can go Harris. Look at that. Trae Young, Williams, Embiid, Leonardo, Aquo, and Harris. All right. Paul George, captain. You should definitely try to get Paul George in here. Try to get Paul George in the singles. Alright, they got Embiid all over the place. And we will check out Yahoo for you. I'm losing today because I didn't really do it with you guys. I do better. I did good yesterday though. So for NBA, we'll go 2-game slate. Let's try that. Right here, 150 to first place. So we're gonna get in. Here, I really would like to put. Maybe I'll try Reggie Jackson. I will try Curry again. George is definitely going in my lineup. Bogdan. Look at Harris in there. He is $32 on Yahoo. He's a little expensive. Gallinardi. We will go Embiid. And we will try Kevin Hurt. Okay. That's the 2-game slate lineup for you. Let's go to Here's the showdown for you. There it is. Alright, let's see what we can get in there. Alright, so we want George in our main spot. So let's look down flexors. So we know Royce O'Neal's getting a lot of minutes. Who else is getting a lot of minutes down here? Tome. Alright, now we have an average of 30. So we know Kawhi's out. So maybe Mitchell's out. If Mitchell's out, we'll put this in here. We have 30 left. And you see, you have to go here, and then we can get Royce out. Put him in there. It's gonna be tough. You're gonna have money left over, so it's gonna have to look something like this. But if he's in, you would go here. Way off, so you're not going to be able to do that. You go here, here. Definitely, you're going to want to do this. So pretty much, Mitchell's probably going to play, so we'll try that. We'll go back down to Royce. Down here, we can just go Bogdan. So this is what it's more likely going to look like. So we'll just keep that for now. So fancy show.